Live edition of the Patriots Beat Podcast here on the CLNS Media Network. Brian Hines from Pat's Pulpit, with always Alex Barth from 98.5 The Sports Hub. Fresh off the practice field from day 4 of Patriots camp, and we got hang times today. But before we get into the good stuff, we'll tease that, and we'll get to that at the end, so you're around for the hang times. But cooler day on the practice field, temperature-wise, really big crowd on the last day before.
Massive crowd,
probably the biggest I've seen in a few years, honestly. So everyone on deck, and it was a good day to come because the offense today, right? We heard Mac say last week, you want these types of days in training camp. Defense is going to win. The offense is going to win. You want to blow punches back and forth, and that's kind of what the offense did today. Good day from Mac. Really good day from Bailey Zappi. The FIVA was out in full force. Good all around. Good sight to see after a few kind of not so great days there to start.
I think you needed to see that, and it, good kind of the calming message when the offense started a little slow for me and you and other people was, hey, they're in low red zone. It's super condensed. There's not a lot of room to work with, and they're not handling it well. And wouldn't you know it, they backed it up. They did full field 2-minute, and things were a lot smoother. Now they went back into low red zone at the end of practice, and again, it didn't look good. And eventually they're going to need to figure that out, and maybe they met with a free agent recently that will help them with that. We'll get to that in a little bit, but how many times did I say, like, it's not like last year right now? I know everybody wants to freak out because we're saying the offense is bad. We said it was bad last year, but this was their best offensive training camp practice in 2 years. Yeah. Like, they never performed as well as they did today last year. Last year's a low bar. Shout out to Leroy Irvin, who I was on the hub with earlier today, who asked me a question that kind of floored me because I feel like, Brian, we've been doing everything in comparison to last year. And he asked me how they look in comparison to 2001. And I had to kind of stop and catch myself.
21?
This was more along 21. Yes, 21. This was this second podcast of the day. How many hours in? This was along the lines of a 2021 practice in my mind.
Yep, I'd agree with that. And you mentioned things got a little clunky in the red zone there. Still, they don't have the run game, right? So you hope when they're inside the 5, that would be a strength of theirs this year. But I thought Mac wasn't really pushing the ball downfield much, even though they were back on the open part of the field in between the 20s a little bit. But I thought his 2 best passes, he had 2 really good plays, and we've talked a lot about last year how bad he was under pressure, right, with rushers in his face. He had 2 really, really nice plays today that just kind of control. It was just a little, he had a motion to Ramondre, and he just dumped it off. And then another one, which was really good, Jalen Mills came on a blitz. He recognized it, just hit Kevin Harris in the flat for an easy touchdown. So I thought, he didn't light up the scoreboard in any way, but it was just kind of what you wanted to see from Mac in these types of practices.
Calm, cool, in control. Throwing into the blitz, I think, is big because that's something he's going to have to be better at this year because the pads aren't on yet. But if today was any indication, the offensive line's as bad as we think it is. So I thought that throw certainly was notable. But yeah, it wasn't super flashy, but did he miss anything? Did he have a bad play? I don't think he did. And that's building. That's a big building block.
No interception for second straight practice now after 2.
No interception. I don't even think he had a ball batted down.
Yeah, it was pretty clean from him. I think few incompletions, but nothing. But the big thing was like the 3 coverage sacks. He had 3 coverage sacks at the end once they got into the red zone. So
he also had one of the incompletions was Cole Strange got bulldozed by Dietrich Wise, and Max like mid drop and just hummed it off his back foot.
Yeah, so that's the line. That's the biggest thing. Zappi, really good day for Bailey Zappi. I thought maybe his best practice we've seen since he's got here. He had a really maybe the play of the day, touchdown to Jalen Hurd and a whole shot on cover 2, as he explained after practice, back left corner of the end zone. Then he hit Trey Nixon that same, and then that next session he hit a beautifully thrown fade to Tyquan Thornton, who got a little more involved today too, which was good to see with Zappi. So really good Zappi throughout the day, but ended with an interception. kind of a bad pass. Jalen Mills had a really nice play, but fortunately, before that, it was really solid.
Yeah, look, I thought that Zappe was excellent today up until that pick. I thought he had a really good day. I'll say that the pick was not a great one, and he's working against second team defense. Like Zappe, and I'm already getting gotten on it for the in the comments. Zappe had a really good day. There is no quarterback competition. The two can be true. Brian Hoyer had good days back in the day. Matt Castle had good days back in the day. I'm too young to remember, but I'm sure Rohan Davey had good days back in the day. Mac had a really good day today as well. I thought he looked really good today. But yeah, no, Zappe playing at a high level. I thought early, and it sucks I have to preface everything with that because some of these fans are so delusional. But I thought the first few days of practice, Zappe looked a little, I don't know if panicked's the right word, but like he was pressing a little bit. He was almost a little too confident, right? He had that sidearm throw. And I thought today he let the game come to him. He did what he does best. Bailey Zappe, spread quarterback, make the read, 3-step back foot out and not getting too flashy with it. I thought the throw on the out route to Trey Nixon was a really good throw. I thought he had the fade to Tyquan in the back corner was a really good throw. He was good. He was really good today. And maybe if he has like 10 more days like this and he starts having against the first team offense in Mac kind of backslides a little bit, we can start talking about a quarterback competition. But Zappe looked good today. Yeah,
no quarterback competition. I saw a lot of the Zappe fans. You see them in the comments and on Twitter, they were the hive today.
Let me just bring this one up. Mac needs an elite O-liner. He's a bottom 3 QB. Zappe doesn't need an elite O-line. He was struggling with the rush today. I mean, Mac was too. They all were. That just, it's not true. It's not true.
One of Zappe's touchdowns, it was a rollout, which probably a sack or blown dead in a live scrimmage, but he hit. It was a nice adjustment by Tyquan on the back line, and he hauled in the touchdown, but it would have been a sack in real time. So he, elite O-line, you're not going to get that, and it's shaky on both ends.
Right. But Zappe was good today.
Yep.
It's really good.
And maybe his favorite target, Demario Douglas, popped off.
Yes.
Pop Douglas. He is not to get too carried away because, 4 days, non-pads. It's the type of skill set that's going to be really impressive in these types of practices, but he was really good. He beat Marcus Jones across the middle on like a touchdown. You saw his acceleration when he was able to pull away. He had a really nice whip route against Isaiah Bolden. I believe Bolden, right? Not Speed, I believe. And then, so he was impressive, and they don't have that type of skill set in another receiver. And so if he can keep stringing these days together when the pads come on, he could really make a push here, and it's an exciting kind of prospect that they might have found.
So I've used this. You guys have heard me say this before. Demario Douglas has checked every box you could want him to check up until this point. I think he certainly has looked the part of an NFL wide receiver, but there's a lot of these guys that are fast and quick, but they're small, that they're really good until the pads come on. And then once there's some contact, they disappear. So tomorrow, this week, really big chance for Demario Douglas, because if he's still doing this when the pads come on, I mean, you have a legitimate NFL wide receiver at this point that they got in the 6th round. So really good day for him. Again, he started repping with the ones today. That tells me that the coaches believe in what they're seeing, and it's not just us having only half the context thinking he's looking really good. But yeah, he's going to need to do it when the pads come on. I think that's a big step.
Yeah, but that's enticing, right? Because they haven't had a stop-start guy like who can stop and start like that, and probably since Edelman. And we know that. I mentioned it today. He's watching Troy Brown. He's watching Wes Welker film. Like that skill set works in this offense with Bill O'Brien. So if that can translate with the pads, that'd be really exciting to watch.
So I've talked to Douglas in the past, and I know he watches a lot of Edelman too. Speaking of the stop-start, I mean, it was like one of the coolest plays of the day where Douglas run a quick slant, and he catches the ball in stride, but then like as soon as he catches it, he stopped and ducked. And Isaiah Bolden, who was in zone, was like flying, because it's not tackle, but they wrap up, they do 2-hand touch. Isaiah Bolden was running over, goes to wrap him up. Douglas ducks, and Isaiah Bolden went right over the top. And that sucks because that play is getting a lot of attention. And like, I get it. But also Isaiah Bolden had a sneaky, really good day today. So I don't want to take that away from him. But you saw within that what Demario Douglas can do. You saw that one, like to stop on a dime like he did. That's a rare ability. Now, he's got to be able to do it when the corners can press and the corners can get hands on him and all that. But that's what we're going to see this week.
Yeah. And his first touchdown, the one against Marcus Jones, was I want to see from Bill O'Brien too, because it looked like they motioned him inside so that, it was a theoretical corner couldn't even press him, give him that free release off the line. Then we talked about what we kind of want to see with Tyquan Thornton. So I thought now that they got a little more space too, we got some positives, get a little more in depth on Bill O'Brien's offense. It was some good stuff there, some good tease before we really get some good stuff with the pads tomorrow, hopefully.
Yeah.
And then Isaiah Bolden, who you just mentioned, he did have seems probably is the fourth option for boundary corner besides Gonzalez, Jack Jones, who got some run with regulars for the first time since camp opened, and then Jonathan Jones. So we'll see if they keep a sixth corner here, but it might be Isaiah in the clubhouse early on.
And that's a sneaky big one. I know people are going to roll their eyes at fourth boundary corner, not even fourth boundary corner battle. Oh boy, like what are we doing? Well, you got to remember the Patriots like to rotate on the boundary. So 3 guys are going to play significant snaps. And if something happens with Jack Jones, like if he gets suspended, now this is a guy that's playing a significant role. And Marcus Jones is kind of the wild card here because he's not a boundary corner, but they've put him out there. But if they want like a third big corner behind Gonzalez and Jack Jones, and John Jones, I guess you want to throw him in there too. Like maybe it's Jalen Mills, but he seems to be stuck at safety. Like I think he's going to play safety, period. And then there's Marcus Jones, and then you're getting into Sean Wade, Amir Speed, and Isaiah Bolden. And I think early on, Isaiah Bolden has kind of looked like the leader in the clubhouse for that spot, like you said. And he brings a lot of intriguing things to the table. 6'3", incredible athlete, great length. He looks the part of an NFL corner. Technically, he's raw, but you can coach those guys up. And we know they can coach up late round undrafted cornerbacks. So it is interesting to see him kind of start to emerge here. And was it one day? Were they giving him a look today? Or is that something we're going to see going forward? Like I'll be looking tomorrow to see, all right, is Isaiah Bolden out there with the 2s again?
I thought he was starting in the spring, even maybe climb up that depth chart a little. So keeps building off that. That would be positive because you mentioned he's got that size, really good athlete. So if they could develop that, they might not need it year one, depending on what happens with Jack Jones, but just have that skill set type with that athleticism, it could be, a really good piece to add to that secondary at some point here and then your future. So a good addition there, but I mean, the main guy there is Christian Gonzalez still, and he just remains to be awesome. Probably my camp crush, so first round pick, right? Like we all kind of were watching him coming in, but got his hands on another football. I'm pretty sure that's every day he's got his hands on a ball. He should have had an interception. It was
based on his reaction, he should have. He was not happy that he dropped that.
Yeah, it was Juju cutting across like right on the goal, tried to just kind of shove one to him, and he came really close to picking that off one hand. It looked like he lost it when he came into the body, but he just continued hard and just he's getting his hands on the football every day. It's got to be a matter of time before he brings one of these in for a pick.
And look, with all the rookies, there's that default. We got to see it with the pads. We've got to see it with full contact, but he's playing pretty physically right now for what these practices are. Gonzalez, and that was one of the knocks on him coming out. Remember, was that he's soft and he's more of a sit and wait corner. He doesn't attack the football. There was a little bit on his tape in college. I thought that was overblown, but I think they've coached whatever that element of his game was out of him. He is going after the football right now. He is starting to play a lot more like a lockdown corner, and that's really exciting.
Yeah. That was what we talked with some of the assistant coaches like right after he got drafted, and that was Mike Pellegrino's big thing. He's like, he shows the willingness to do it. He might not always show up, he might not always make the play or something, but he shows the willingness to put his head down. It's like he had that big tackle against Georgia. That was the popular one going around on like Twitter and everything. But he doesn't look afraid to kind of get his hands, stick his head in there. So, but again, as always, we'll see how things look when the pads come on. And then I think the other rookie, we can just keep all the rookies here, was they move out of the red zone and Marte Mapu gets thrown right into the mix at linebacker next to Juwan Bentley.
Yeah, so he played a couple different spots. He was playing Mike. He was playing on the edge. He played a little slot corner. That Bentley one, though, is the most interesting because if you remember back a couple years ago when Dante Hightower was still here and Bentley was a younger player, they would do that. They would put Hightower at the Mike and have Bentley on all three downs, like as an edge setter and as a pass rusher, they'd put him on the edge. And he was pretty good at that. Now, he's better off the ball, and they haven't had another off the ball linebacker, so they haven't been able to do that the last 2 years. But, on third downs, like I think Bentley's an underrated pass rusher. On third downs, if you can put Mapu at the Mike and put Bentley on the edge opposite Judon, opposite Uche with one of them and let him pin his ears back, it's just another wrinkle in a defense that's going to be so multifaceted. It's yet another thing opposing offenses have to prepare for.
Yeah, that would be a real good dynamic piece there to add. And he is still in the red non-contact jersey, so we'll kind of see his participation level as we get to the full pads tomorrow. That'll be interesting to watch. But we've talked so much about his athleticism, pairing that with Bentley, and now even allowing Bentley to go other places, line up in different looks. And as you said, I think he is a really underrated pass rusher. So if you can let him rush the passer a little more and give Mapu those coverage assignments, just another piece for this defense to really try to have a special year, because their talent level is off the charts.
Yeah.
So that was the secondary pretty much. Defensive line, we'll see more of that tomorrow. But
we did see Dietrich Wise bowl over Cole Strange today. So there are a couple moments today. We saw that. We saw Jelani Tavaya kind of accidentally light up. Was it Pierre Strong, right? They're ready for pads. You can tell they're ready to start hitting out there.
Yeah. We'll see how the offensive line handles that too. On the flip side, it was still Bill Murray, who got even more praise from Bill Belichick prior to practice. Nobody works harder than Bill Murray. Still at right guard, and Connor.
Well, I thought it was funny how Bill said that before practice. Nobody works harder than Bill Murray, and then Bill Murray got a false start, and it was the first lap of the year, and he full sprinted it. So nobody worked harder than Bill Murray. Also, just as a quick aside, it's a long camp. It's however many days. Like, people are going to jump off sides. 4 days in for the first lap. Again, this is super low bar, but from where they were last year, like they couldn't stop jumping off sides and lining up wrong last year. So to go 4 days without an offensive penalty is encouraging.
Which Gesicki kind of talked about the other day, right?
Friday.
Level, how much they're not having these penalties pop up a lot. It seems like he might have been tuned into what happened last year here or something. But so good that you don't want penalties, but 4 days in for your first one is pretty good start there. And then Connor McDermott back over Riley Reif there on the right tackle spot. So that's probably the biggest battle we're going to be kind of watching here as the pads come on tomorrow.
Yeah. And I think that's the big one. And that's what we've been waiting for is this offensive line, the tackle position especially, really is where this team's going to get undone if they get undone. And it's already concerning that it was Riley Reif and now it's turned into a rotation, but now we're going to see for sure, like at 34 years old, where is Riley Reif at? Can he be the starting right tackle, or is it going to have to be Connor McDermott? Are they going to have to get creative? I'm also interested to see if Mike Onwenu or Calvin Anderson gets back out on the field tomorrow, now that, again, those linemen are in the spotlight.
Yep. Riley Reif will be interesting because his game at 34, his game really was throughout his career. It was predicated on, more a power blocker, strengths with the pads on. The foot speed, as we've talked about, it is a worry, and you've seen guys through the first days of camp kind of blow by him around the edge there. So maybe now that he's able to be a little more aggressive, he can maybe start to separate himself from Connor McDermott. But if not, it looks like McDermott will be the main competition there. No one else has really made a charge yet. Not that we were expecting them to without pads, but that's the battle to watch here. So that'll pick up tomorrow with the pads. So do you want to hear from our pals at FanDuel before we get into some hang times here?
Yeah, let's do that. As soon as there it is. All right, let's do that.
Your first swing at betting MLB on FanDuel and get 10 times, that's 10 times your first bet amount of bonus bets and up to $200. Just bet $20 and you'll land $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. That's $200 you could spend betting everything from the money line to the over-under to who you think is going to be, well, hitting the first home run. All in the app that's safe, secure, it's super easy to use. Plus, when you win, you get paid instantly. There's no better place to bet on MLB than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So sign up today and visit FanDuel.com/Boston and get up to $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com/Boston. FanDuel, official partner of Major League Baseball.
Just looking, the Red Sox got walked off again.
Yeah. Also, my buddy just sent me his big fantasy draft he does every year. Somebody took Zeke in the 12th round. I think it's like a 12-team league.
12th round, interesting. Touchdown vulture Zeke, which we can get into.
We'll get into Zeke. Yeah, I should have saved that.
But so special teams, for the first time this summer, we got some team punting drills. So Bryce Behringer and Corliss Waitman, want to rattle off some hang times we got?
Yeah, so the hang times today, I think the second punting period was a quick release period because the hang times were like oddly short. But I had Corliss Waitman down for 4.87, 5.17, 399, 475, 448, 450, 437, 453. And then his last one, because I said that last period was short, I think he was like, all right, I know this kid's up there timing him. I got to give him one. Wrapped up with a 5.22. And at Behringer at 444, 518, 481, 467, 479, 432, 477. And then Behringer with the last punt, he saw the 422 and he put out a 433. So I thought Behringer was the better punter today overall. Not just the hang times. I thought the rotation on the ball was definitely significant. The other interesting wrinkle to it, when they did live field goal drills, Behringer was the holder pretty much throughout. I didn't see Corliss Waitman hold today, and Behringer was holding for both Ryland, who got most of the reps today, and Nick Folks. So that tells me Behringer is in the lead for that punter job.
Yep. And I thought Ryland was really good today. The ball just jumps off his foot. When they were doing first half of practice was very heavy, like walkthrough stuff. And on one half of the field, Ryland was kicking, and I was just watching him kick. He really has some power on that ball. It jumps off. He was 5 for 6 in the two-minute drill at the ends, and it looked like the one miss might have been a bad snap or hold in that department, but he took credit for it after he pushed it right. But we said it'd be kind of surprising if they moved away from a 4th-round pick, and I don't think anything that Ryland's done so far would warrant that. I think he's been really solid here.
Yeah, I've been under the assumption that it's going to be Ryland Shaw kicking. I think the punter competition is a lot more interesting, and today was definitely so. All right, I had Waitman after the spring, and they didn't do any team punting drills until today. I thought Behringer was like clearly the better punter today.
Yep. That rookie duo would be exciting to go into the year with if they can keep this up throughout the summer.
That'd be fun.
Yeah. I know. Has anyone ever? I know it's been like 20 years since that someone's drafted. Has anyone gone throughout a year with a rookie kicker and punter? Do you know?
I don't believe so. I think that Raiders team was the last team to do it.
Awesome.
Period.
Yeah.
There's probably been like spot games here or there, but start the season or primarily for the season. I think it's that.
Yeah. So that'd be fun to go through the year with, but we'll see how that develops. But Yeah, that was pretty much all I had throughout practice. I don't know any other little details, things you picked up throughout the day.
Yeah, I had a couple of smaller notes. Just while we're on special teams, and we talked about this back in the spring, but Jordan Healy continues to work. What call it 1-on-2 or 2-on-1 with Matthew Slater and Cam Accord. That's a guy that I think is angling for roster spot. So that's notable, certainly. Who's having like a sneaky good camp too. Going back to defense is Jelani Tavai. Had another pass breakup today. He's kind of like showing he's not going to be a feature third down player, passing down player. He's not. But I am interested to ask him. I think he worked on his coverage ability this offseason, like Juwan Bentley did last year and came back, and it was night and day. And I wonder if maybe he did some similar things, but you're seeing him make plays in coverage. And if he has even 3-down versatility, you're not going to play him on all 3 downs, but maybe he can give you something if you need it on third downs. What does that mean for a guy like Ronnie Perkins or Anthony Jennings? Does that have them keeping one less linebacker? Because Jelani Tavai can do just a little bit more. I think that's an interesting thing to watch.
Yeah, he's had a really good camp, just solid all-around player. Marcus Jones, we talked about him a little earlier. He kind of had a rough day in coverage, got beat twice for 2 touchdowns. And I noticed, not that it's a major surprise, but if we were – a lot of talk about Gerard Mayo throughout the offseason, new potential role, new title. He didn't get a new title. Some people thought he would, but it was Steve Belichick, I noticed, on the walkie-talkie calling defensive plays today. So
which has been the case.
Yeah, so it doesn't look like anything is going to switch there if Mayo is taking on more responsibilities in some matter.
Yeah, well, and I mean, they're also stretched thinner too because Brian Belichick's not out there. He had that knee injury that has him. He can't come to the facility right now. He's still involved behind the scenes. That's what the report is. But so you have Steve back working with the safeties like he did when he first got into coaching, and Gerard's just on the linebackers now. So everything's stretched a little thin. But yeah, that's what it's been, right? Steve calls the defense, so it doesn't seem like that's changed.
Yep. So all about the same there. So I guess we can end with some running backs because.
Well, I mean, before we get to that, I mean, I think it's probably worth looking ahead. Full pad practice tomorrow. Yeah. We kind of talked about the linemen, but the other things to watch when the full pads come on. I think Demario Douglas is certainly a guy to watch when the pads come on. I can't wait to see Johnny Lumpkin when the pads come on. I think we all know that. And something that's flying a little under the radar, maybe because this rookie class is doing so well to start. Cole Strange, year 2 jump. Is it real? Had a rough day today. Does he rebound tomorrow? Does he show tomorrow that maybe he's made some progress from last year?
Yeah. It would be nice to see Tyquan also build off 2 touchdowns today with Zappy. If they get back into more in between the 20s area, can he still make an impact, and how will they scheme him away from contact maybe now that they will be in pads? But yeah, it's the offensive line that's going to be the main thing. Although Marte Mapu too, we'll see if he's still out there in the red and how involved he gets with contact. So this is when the fun starts, right? This is when the teaching part of this is kind of over, and now it's evaluation and competition, and the good stuff kind of picks up.
Real football, as Bill Belichick likes to call it.
Real football. And maybe they'll have another running back on the roster because I'm guessing it's going to be pretty heavy run game the next day or two, as first 2 days.
Safe bet.
And it's still no Ty Montgomery again today. And it's still a light room. It's still a very light room, especially it's really highlighted in those positional drills when Pierre Strong goes and does special team work. It's Ramondre, Kevin Harris, and J.J. Taylor. And that's not the depth you probably need at the running back position right now. So we know they've been kind of testing the waters there, and it continued yesterday because they had Zeke Elliott in for a visit. I think Dalvin Cook's a better player, obviously, but I think for what they need, I think Zeke's might be the best option. Short yardage back, can come in around the goal line and punch it in. He still had 12 touchdowns last year, and he's a real exceptional pass blocker. So I think he'd be a great fit for what they need here and would be a good addition to that room.
I'm surprised Dalvin Cook's not a Jet already.
Yeah.
So kind of ruling that out. I really like Zeke for them. I think some of the things you said, like the experience, he brings a veteran mind to it. Good bowling ball back, like goal line runner. He can take on some of those more physical carries Damian Harris had. Also, if they're going to struggle to throw the ball inside the 5, you need a good goal line back, right? And you have potentially one of the best goal line backs in the league in Ezekiel Elliott, who I think, he's not the player he was maybe 2 or 3 years ago, but at the same time, outside of Derrick Henry, I need 2 yards. I don't know how many backs I'm giving the ball to before Ezekiel Elliott right now. Really good pass blocker, good football IQ, all of that. And, from their end of things, Cook's going to cost real money. And again, I think he's going to the Jets anyway. Even Fournette has a couple other teams interested. This is the first time Zeke's been attached to anybody in 3 months. Yeah. I don't think they're bidding against anybody. And it may come down to, hey, you come play for $1.5 million, $2 million, or you sit out the year. And is Zeke going to sit out the year? I don't think he is, because, he's got, what's it called? That you get like after you retire.
I can't think of the name of it. I know what you're talking about though.
Yeah. But anyway, so he needs to get a couple more years service time under his belt. So I think Zeke makes a lot of sense. Now, I don't think the signing is going to be imminent. If the way they've done things in the past that I kind of look at it is they'll go through the padded practices this week, which again, as Bill Belichick says, the start of the evaluation stage. They'll go through the padded practices this week, maybe those joint practices next week in Green Bay. And then they'll look at it and say, all right, do we need another running back? Or because if they go through that and Kevin Harris and Pierre Strong are both great through the padded practices, then maybe they say, all right, we got 3 solid backs. JJ Taylor's the emergency guy. We're in good shape. If they look at it and they're like, Pierre Stronger, Kevin Harris isn't ready, then maybe they go and say, all right, yeah, we need another guy at this position.
Yeah. And maybe Ty Montgomery's injury isn't as serious as it might look right now, but kind of gauge the market there and see how that develops. But sounds like they'll stay in touch. I know obviously he left yesterday without a contract. I think there was a report that he was still
it was pension today. NFL pension. That's the word I was thinking of. Sorry, continue.
That's the word. But yeah, it sounded like he was still in town today, out for dinner with Mac Jones, it looked like last night. Maybe Mac can be a better GM here than Matt Judon, but yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it maybe drags on and they see what they have in these sophomore backs with the pads on before anything settles there.
I'm definitely not rolling out Zeke being a Patriot. I don't think it's going to happen in the next day or two. I think you're looking at more like early mid-August that would happen.
Yeah. And someone with Zeke be willing to be a backup. I don't think he has another choice really right now. I don't see where he's going to go to start. I know he wasn't big on the whole Tony Pollard situation last year, but it's July 30th. There's not going to be a team unless someone gets hurt the next week. It's
right. But again, it goes back to that point of would he sit out the year? Because it doesn't seem like he has options. So I don't think he'd love being a spellback. I don't think he'd love backing up Ramondre Stevenson, but I think he'd rather do that than not be in the league. Because generally with these guys, sometimes players will sit out a year and come back. They get a job. Jimmy Graham just sat out 2, right? But once you're out of the league for a year, that changes the way you're viewed. And it also changed you as a player. Not that Zeke's at the level Le'Veon Bell is at, but remember Le'Veon Bell sat out that year, was never the same. If Zeke sits out this year, people are going to start considering him retired, whether he is or not. He's going to get that retired, unofficially retired label. And that's the last thing he wants if he wants to extend his career. So I think he's going to have to settle. And it sucks that the league is in this position right now with running backs. That's a much bigger issue, but it does seem like Zeke's going to have to settle. And why not do that in New England?
Yep. Where he'd also get a revenge game against Dallas week 4 in Dallas too. I believe, right? Aren't they in Dallas?
Yeah.
So that would be, maybe that's appeasing for him, but so we'll see where that goes. And then in more running back news, a Patriots legend, Sony Michel, retired last night. 2-time Super Bowl champion, Sony Michel. Obviously didn't go maybe great for a first-round pick, but he was a pretty instrumental part of that Super Bowl championship in 2018. So I know he just signed a contract with the Rams, but that's a mood. You go to work for a few days and then you say, no, I'm good. So Sony Michel handing them up.
Weird trajectory to his career, because I always people love to pick on the Sony Michel pick. And I would say, yes, that was a bad draft pick, but Sony Michel being a bad pick has nothing to do with Sony Michel himself. They should not have taken a running back there. It is so hard to justify taking a running back in the first round. They were not in position to do so. Even him versus Nick Chubb, I think a lot of that discourse is revisionist history. Yeah. Coming out, they both had knee issues, and the difference, and what I think put it over the top for the Patriots, was Nick Chubb fumbled a lot in college, and people forget that. But Nick Chubb had a lot of trouble holding onto the ball, whereas Sony Michel didn't. Now, you could have taken Sony Michel maybe in the second round and been fine, but he was never going to live up to that first-round billing. That being said, he's a good player. Rushed for, just under 1,000 yards as a rookie. Was great in that playoff run in 2018. Had a pretty good 2019. I was actually looking today. I forgot. He pretty much put up comparable numbers in 2019. 2020, he gets hurt. Damian Harris emerges, got buried, and then got traded in 2021 and was kind of a backup for the next 2 years. Had trouble sticking. He got hurt again a few more times, but his 336 yards in that playoffs, Patriots franchise record for the most in the playoffs, 6 touchdowns, the most for a player in a single playoff. So they shouldn't have taken him in the first round, and he was never going to justify that pick. But that aside, especially for a running back in the modern era, he only played 5 years. Well, he rushed for basically 1,000 yards in 2 of them, and he won 2 Super Bowls. That's objectively not a bad career. So congrats to him on retiring and all that. But it's just it's an interesting era of Patriots history. We can say this: he was not the worst first round pick the Patriots made that year. So there is that. Also, just from the college football point of view, amazingly dominant college football player. That Rose Bowl game he had, outstanding.
He was awesome at Georgia, and I know the big ones like Lamar and then Nick Chubb, obviously. But a whole different thing. I thought Michel was probably ranked higher than Chubb coming out. Probably even had more potential as a pass catcher, which they probably like. So that's revisionist history. But obviously that 2018 postseason, big touchdowns in Kansas City, the lone touchdown in the Super Bowl. It was maybe not worth the first round pick, but he was a big part of that. So yeah, congrats to him. On his retirement there.
Yeah.
So back pads tomorrow, first time. Anything else here before we kind of wrap it up?
I think that pretty much covers it. Real football starts tomorrow. I'm excited. Oh, shout out to the crowd today. If you went today, awesome crowd. That was as many people as I've ever seen at a training camp practice. They were up on the ramps and people watching from the parking lot. So it was good energy too. So shout out to the crowd today.
They even had the top, if you go on the top of the ramp, they had to continue it into the stadium almost. It looked like. So, very good crowd. It was a beautiful day out. Kind of got that football chill in the air. So, real football tomorrow, and we'll be back to this. Well, right there. And we'll be back to discuss it. So, until then, you can go follow Alex on Twitter at RealAlexBarth and go read all his training camp coverage over at 985thesportshub.com. Follow me on Twitter at @IamBrianHines and go read all my training camp work over at patspulpit.com. Thank you all, as always, for tuning in, and we will see you